Thank you, Honourable Presiding Member, for the time allocated to me to speak today at the committee stage. Last year, when I spoke on the votes of Ministry of Justice, I said that the Minister of Justice must be feeling like the Minister of Ports and Shipping of Afghanistan. And I'd like to repeat that today because he, in fact, is very uncomfortable in that post. We have seen in the media that the Minister of Justice had tried to resign. Now, this is very strange that a person tries to resign but is unable to resign. He, being a member of the legal profession, a member of the INABA at that, should know how to resign, if you want to resign. What is there to try to resign and not being able to resign? It's very strange, but that's what we read, that the Minister of Justice doesn't know how to even resign from his post. But all that points to his uncomfortableness in holding this post, that of Minister of Justice in the current regime. I don't blame him for that. The government, for all its rhetoric, has unashamedly been interfering in the process of justice, in the administration of justice in this country. As I speak, I read news that former Navy Commander Vasantha Karanagoda is tipped to be appointed a governor to replace former Governor Raja Kolure, who passed away recently. Let me express our condolences to the Communist Party stalwart who also succumbed to COVID-19. But Vasantha Karanagoda is an accused, is a suspect in one of the emblematic cases in this country. The abduction for ransom, not for anything else. Abduction for ransom by naval personnel of 11 youth in Colombo who were taken to Trincomalee Naval Base and done to their deaths. Now the police, having conducted investigations, have named several suspects, including the Navy commander at that time. And inexplicably, the Attorney General, in a mighty hurry, in an indecent hurry, is trying to withdraw indictments, or has intimated that he would withdraw indictment against Vasantha Karanagoda. The families of these young men have been agitating for justice for so long, and during the last regime managed to move the wheels of justice a little bit, but now it's being reversed. And it is such a person that you want to appoint a governor of a province. It's not only that. Many indictments filed during the last government by the then Attorney General, who incidentally is the Chief Justice today, is being withdrawn by the current Attorney General. As soon as he is appointed to that post, the first things that he is doing is to withdraw indictments against indictments filed against members of the current government. Attorney General is supposed to be independent in our country. Appointment is supposed to be independent. During his tenure, he is supposed to act independently. Unlike in many other countries that have our own tradition where the Attorney General is a political appointee. Even in Britain, he is a political appointee. In India, he is a political appointee. But in those countries, even though they are political appointees, we find that they act independently once they are appointed. Here, the reverse seems to be true. The minister protested at the appointment of another convict who was pardoned, convicted for contempt of court. Contempt of court where he was so convicted and sentenced on a complaint made by a magistrate for disturbing proceedings in court, where the magistrate himself had the power to punish him summarily for contempt. The learned magistrate chose to make the complaint to the Court of Appeal, and after a full-blown inquiry where the venerable monk was afforded a hearing, he was convicted and sentenced. And then he was pardoned. He was convicted in another, or rather, he's a contempt in another contempt proceedings, presently pending before the Court of Appeal, where he violated the magistrate's court order in Mullaitivu and facilitated the cremation of a body of another monk in the premises of a Hindu temple. Now, such is a person you find suitable enough to appoint as chairman of a task force. And naturally, the minister protested, also for the reason I suppose he wasn't even consulted. And originally, no Tamil was appointed to this task force. That was a good thing. I did not think that any self-respecting Tamil would have served in this task force. We said that also. But as it often happens, you find all kinds of people in every community. And so you found 3 people who were willing to bury their dignity and go and sit in this task force. I say this because this task force is captioned "One Country, One Law." One country, one law. Most people think that this is something to do with personal laws. But it's far worse than that. If the government is committed to devolution of powers, as you have been saying to the international community, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, when he was president, repeatedly assured India in 3 joint statements. In another joint statement with Secretary General of the United Nations, he said, which in fact is a promise made to the entire international community, that he would enhance devolution. If that is the case, then there can't be one country, one law. Because even in this broken system under the 13th Amendment, even under this 13th Amendment provincial council system, which we do not accept, there is legislative power over certain subjects that are devolved to the provinces. The provinces can make their own laws in respect of matters in the provincial council list, and even matters that come under the concurrent list. We have been saying that the matters that are devolved, subjects that are devolved to the provinces, must be exclusively devolved to the provinces. The provinces must be supreme in respect of those issues. They must have the legislative power given to them must be supreme. The centre ought not to override that. But that is not the case under the 13th Amendment. The centre can, with a two-thirds majority, override it, as we saw happening in the Divinaguma case and various other instances. Nevertheless, in our constitution, we still have the power devolved to the provinces to make statutes, to make law. Legislative power is devolved. And the promise by the government to the world is that you will enhance devolution. So on the one hand, you say you are enhancing devolution, which means even legislative power that is given to the provinces would be enhanced, or at least dealt with in such a manner that the centre ought not to interfere with those subjects. Whilst that is the case on the one hand, you are appointing a task force to ensure one country, one law. How can there be one country, one law if legislative power is devolved to the provinces? It runs contrary to the current constitutional arrangement and contrary to the various promises that you are dishing out to the world, that you would enhance devolution. That is the task force. That is why we said, that is why I said that we did not think that any self-respecting Tamil would serve on that. But as I said, for various reasons, people do go and sell their dignity. There were already some persons from the Muslim community who had been appointed. Now this is another matter to be taken note of. The original appointment, whether this task force is worthy of being appointed or not, in the original appointment, there were no Tamil appointed. That says something. We were elated that no Tamil was appointed, but from the president's side, when he did appoint, no Tamil was appointed. Now what does that mean? What does that reveal? And later some people added, earlier also something like that happened, afterthoughts. So you think we are afterthoughts in this country? We have lived in this country as long as, or longer than anyone else. This country belongs to us as much as it belongs to anybody else. We are not afterthoughts in this country. And in any case, this particular appointment and the task force is something that we totally reject. In fact, we don't even have to say it, because the chairperson, the type of person you have appointed as chairperson to this, and with the minister coming from the community that you do, stomaching this is something that we cannot accept. It is like those 3 Tamil people who have been appointed to the task force. I did not think that you also would at some point sell your dignity like this and continue in this office. Merely telling the country or your community that you are trying to resign but you are unable to resign is a joke. It doesn't, thank you, it doesn't do you any good. So my plea to my if I might call you here, even in this August Assembly, my learned friend, is to stand up straight and resign before these sessions are out. Thank you.